This video is on volcanoes, and in particular how volcanoes is evidence for plate tectonics. This is going to be data set number 4 of 6. So if you have been selected as one of the specialist volcanoes, this is the video you need to see. What we're going to do here today is show you how to use My World GIS to its fullest and be able to pull as much data as you possibly can to help you share with the class why volcanoes are evidence for plate tectonics. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open the project. If you've already started a file, you can find that, but let's just assume you haven't. So we're going to click Evidence for Plate Movement and press Open Project. As it loads, you'll notice there's two windows. The one in the blue is your view window, and over here is your construct or construction window. This is just a breakdown of all the 6 evidences. We're going to set that aside for right now. And what we're going to do, we're going to actually get away from the instructions just a little bit, primarily because we kind of live in Northern California with earthquakes. What we want to do is we want to create a special map for California so that all of us can kind of relate to it, I hope, a little bit better. So as you can see, once you launch this, the layer for the latitude and longitude and also the continents has already appeared. And I'm just kind of presetting this up so that we can get a really good look at California. I'm also going to open up the states layer so everything is, we have kind of an idea where we are in the picture. So I'm going to blow up California just a little bit more, and we're going to line it up that way. The other thing I'm going to open up is the volcanoes layer, and I'm going to click on just like that. And the other thing that we will be looking at is some of the selections. So that's there. And also we're going to look at plate boundaries. So if I've launched a few more of the layers than necessary, so that we can kind of drop a little bit better picture. Now when I clicked on volcanoes, you can see all the volcanoes in California. The volcanoes in California pretty much reside in the north and in the southern parts of the state. You can see that in the green. Maybe it's a little hard for you to see that there, but at least it's going to show you where those volcanoes are. We'll be looking in those two areas, but primarily up here in Northern California. So let's slide this over just a bit and launch our directions. Your data group number 4, you're going to be the volcano specialist, and I want you to know how to use all the tools to be able to extract as much data as you possibly can. We're going to be using 2 different kinds. We're going to use a histogram, and we're also using an analyze tool. So we'll be dealing with that in just a moment. And one of the major questions is, what pattern do you see in all of this? For instance, which volcanoes in what regions of California or the western United States is that related to as far as the plate boundary? Is there a particular plate boundary that has or shows volcanoes better than others? The other thing is you're going to take a look at actually the volcanoes along with each other. So that's going to be important to look at. So the very first thing we're going to do is, according to the directions, we're going to click on or activate the volcanoes layer, and then I'm going to click on the histogram. When I do that, you'll see that it's building a page, and we're going to click on elevation. This is the elevation, and I'm going to first of all set the minimum to 0. So now what you have is you have a variety of different elevations. So you can see that there are a lot of elevations just around 938.13 meters high. And then of course we have quite a few also at the little over 1,500 meters high. And of course we have fewer at lower elevations. So that gives you an idea of how you can use a histogram. But the other thing that I want to use it for, of course, is I want to look at the various types. And as you can see over here, the histogram shows us all different types. By far, the most amount of volcanoes types are stratovolcanoes. There's 710 of them in the state. Now, if you've ever been to Lassen Park or you've been to Shasta, Mount Shasta, those are stratovolcanoes. And some of the other ones, like at Medicine Lake, those kinds are shield volcanoes, a little bit smaller in size. And of course, stratovolcanoes and shale volcanoes are kind of related to each other, and it's kind of a vent of the larger ones, and we'll look at that a little bit later. But that's how you use a stratovolcano. What does this have to do with the data? Well, it shows us, number one, by far, stratovolcanoes are the most prevalent. And as you can see in this picture, where are they located in relationship to the plate boundaries? You can see here, this is a convergent plate here. This plate right here is a divergent plate. And so we definitely have some relationships that you need to make note of. So we're going to kind of get that out of the way. Now, when we click on plate boundaries, you can see those are going to be right over here. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to use this, see here we go, this tool right here. I'm going to get some information about each of these volcanoes. And if we get it a little bit closer, there we go, I want to pinpoint all of these. So when I click on this information tool, I want to know where that particular dot is, so I'm going to click on it, and all of a sudden it pops up, there's Lassen. So I want to make that part of our information because I want to use that piece of information. I'm going to click it once, and then what I want to do is I want to make a selection from that row, and you can give it a name, and I'm just going to put it Lassen. And then I'm going to press OK. And then what I'm going to do, because now that it's highlighted, I know where Lassen is, I'm going to click this one up here. That one's Shasta. Whoops, I want to keep those records. And so I'm going to double click that one as well. And then I'm going to make that a selection. And I'm going to call that Shasta. I'm going to press OK. I want to bring back Lassen, so I'm going to click on this again. There we go. And I want to keep that intact. Now, what about some of these other ones? And of course, you can see they're strato-type volcanoes. How about this one up here? What is this one? That one's Medicine Lake, and that's a shield volcano. Again, closely associated with Mount Shasta. And if you've been in that area, you've seen this particular type. If you run to the back side or the east side of Mount Shasta, you'll see this field of shield volcanoes, and that one obviously is one of the ones that's a little bit more prevalent. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to call it Medicine Lake. And I'll press OK. And I'm going to click one more in the Shasta area right over here. And I don't want to do the cone one. I'm going to do one of the, that's the Twin Buttes. I'm sure you've seen that if you've also been out and around in Lassen. And here we go. And that's a big cave. That one's a little bit north. I think it's close to Highway 44, if I'm not mistaken. And that one, I'm going to double click that, make that into a row, and I'm going to call that Big Cave. And press OK. Now, what I've created here now is just basically what you can do is you can select different things so you can see where they are. Like there's Shasta, right up here, and then there is Lassen. So now what we've done is we kind of pinpointed them so it's easier to maybe do some more some data collection. So let's go back. And of course, I'm not quite following the instructions on this, but now I'm at least pointing to some ones that many of you know, and you can see the relationship between these volcanoes, the shield, as well as the strato, as well as the boundaries. So let's take a look at that. Do you see a pattern? You should be able to see a pattern now. And the other thing is, what observations can you make about the locations on the continents? When we zoom back out, that's one thing that you need to look at as well. And we're going to go back to the, okay, we're going to analyze all of this. We're going to go by value. We're going to go by volcanoes. And we're going to go to the primary types. And I want to look at shield and strato. I'm going to just call it SS, S, and S. And I've created another way to create information. And when we did that, it also brings up all the different types. So for instance, if I want to see both together, you can see, look at this. Does that look kind of like a pattern? Well, it should to you. And as you can see, the Lassen ones are kind of clumped together, and then the Shasta ones are kind of clumped together. So there is definitely a relationship between the volcanoes as well as the volcanoes and um, the plate boundary. The other thing I can do is I can click on, let's say, stratovolcanoes, and of course it just selects those. So there's a lot of different tools that you can use here to be able to highlight certain things that you want to look at. When you want to look at the relationship between different kinds of volcanoes, you can go to the highlight mode or over here into the legend. It's kind of up to you and what you want to do. And one last thing I would like to do is I want to kind of zoom away from this. I'm going to shut this down right here, and we're going to zoom out. Now you can start to see some of the relationship of some of the other volcanoes. If you notice here, look at all of these particular volcanoes that's lining which particular boundary. Which of these boundaries has most of the volcanoes? So I hope now that you know how to use the tools, you've gained some confidence, and you'll be able to be an expert in the field of volcanology and be able to make relationships between the volcanoes themselves and also the plate boundaries. Give me a holler if you need some help in the lab. We'll see you there. Thanks.